women feel that their full expression means being able, their full feminine expression means being able to, this isn't how they would describe it, but essentially dump their emotional bullshit onto their partner. And that he should be able to be stoic and grounded and just breathe through it and be able to take it. And that is also what defines a strong masculine man.
Mm-hmm.
I have some issues with this. At the end of the day, the goal to me is to be a mature adult. I don't care whether you're masculine, feminine, non-binary, anything in between. You do whatever you want to do. A mature adult is able to regulate themselves. Yes, co-regulation is also beautiful. It's necessary part of being human in so many ways. But being able to exercise containment, which is something that I am still learning in more subtle ways too. But I do not there is no part of me that takes pride in me being an emotional mess and then coming at you, which has happened, as we know, and throwing it at you and including unconsciously judgments and everything else at you, and then expecting you to just take it. There is no part of me that holds any sense of pride in doing that, nor do I identify that as being my full emotional expression.
Yeah.
That's me. That's my inner child coming out to play and throwing a tantrum.
And let's be honest, though, right? Which is no one really thinks that they're being their little child when they're being their little child. We all think that we're being, my brain takes over and says, there's a perfectly legitimate reason why I'm acting this way. And that's, I have a strong emotion, and my brain, I often say, is a wonderful servant to a terrible master, which is going to come up with all of these wonderful reasons why it should look the way that it is. And I'm justified in acting this way. And so I don't think anybody in that moment is going to say, oh yeah, I'm acting in my child and I'm, there's perfectly good reason. And I'm mad for a really good reason. And this is my full expression. In that moment, I may be saying that because I'm going to put you on the spot here, because when we had this conversation originally around what our roles and responsibility were, I came and said, a
year ago, you mean?
Yeah. A year ago, I came and said that, this is going to sound really odd for me, but I do want to take on somewhat of a traditional masculine role. I want to take responsibility for providing for our needs as a family, and in that kind of way, that's something that feels really good for me. Getting back to like the practical, what does that mean? And also, creating safety both physically and emotionally. Part of that conversation, you said, well, I'm here to bring the fullness of my feminine expression, which I think over this year we've been kind of unpacking. What does that actually mean? And there were many conversations, arguments along the way where, there was this conversation of, is my full feminine expression not welcomed? And I think there's something very specific around, I'm only welcomed if I'm happy.
Yes, that has come up for me several times because I am starting to really differentiate between what that means. Because my view at times has been, not because I want to bring you my other stuff, by the way, it's human, and I recognize that it is going to happen. I don't live in a bubble, and it's going to happen sometimes. But I have taken our conversations sometimes to mean that you only want me if I'm happy and joyful and bubbly, and that's what partnership means to you. And I don't feel that way fully, but there have been moments when I have perhaps been a little bit dysregulated, where I have wanted to understand what that actually means to you. Because yeah, if I'm fully regulated, now regulated does not mean happy, but I have crossed wires on that sometimes, thinking that you only want me the most, or really at all, if I'm happy and joyful and alive and free and whatever. And that feels incredibly limiting to my human experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to hear what that actually, like what you're actually looking for, what that actually means to you.
Well, yeah, I would say that it's regulated. That's that would be the key term for me. And so I think that we all get we can all get angry, we can all get sad, we can all have all of these emotions. But is the question, is the mature adult present in having these emotions, or is it the wounded child that's present in having these emotions? And I'm not aware in that moment. Something that I often deal with is, there are many moments where I have protected myself as though I was under mortal fear for my life. And when I stepped back, at that moment, I was like, I got to fight for my life, and it felt real, and it felt that this is valid, that I am fighting for my life. But when I step back and look at it, I'm like, this really wasn't that big of a deal, and it's not that, But when I look at it even deeper, it's connected to something that I have a deep wound and fear around, and I am protecting myself from having to experience that again. So that's what I'm really fighting for. And so in those moments, I'm not regulated, I'm dysregulated. And so I think it's important for men to recognize that when we're seeking out a feminine partner, we're not seeking someone who's like us, and there's a reason for that. Right? If we're and it's rare that that we have a masculine and a masculine partner getting together, regardless of gender. There tends to be a polarity between that, and then the question is why? Why do we seek out this strange other? And I think that's something that really baffles men. We understand it at the beginning, like, oh, she's so beautiful and lovely and vibrant and all of these things. And so I see how it's easy for a woman to go, oh, he only wants that aspect of me. There's something about this dangerous feminine that we are attracted to. There's something about this, this, what I would often say is just this connection to feeling. That this emotional ability, the ability to actually feel and be present with that, in many ways is foreign and exciting and different and new. And then we have it in the home, and we're like, whoa, that's way too much. And so the way too much is the dysregulated aspect. It's the little girl fighting for her life, just like my little boy is fighting for his life. And what I'm saying is, I don't need that. I'm okay without that. Though it's going to be present, I don't want to put it on the table as this is what I bring to the relationship. And I see that happening, in relationships a lot, where I'm with men who are with. I have men in my men's group who are experiencing this with their partners, expressing, this is my feminine expression. And we're going, this isn't what I'm asking for. This isn't what you're giving to me. This isn't the trade-off. This is just another thing that I have to find a way to lead through, to be present with, this is another weight that I'm carrying. If the idea is that as the masculine, I'm supposed to be this container for your full feminine expression, that's just me holding a lot more weight. And if that's what you're bringing, that's what you're putting on the table, that doesn't sound like a good balance.
If today's conversation brought up something for you, maybe you saw your own relationship and what we shared, that's not a coincidence.
The truth is, every relationship has its own map. But most of us are trying to navigate without knowing where we really are.
That's why we built the Relational Compass, to help you understand your direction in love. It reveals the patterns that cause conflict and the strengths that bring you back to connection.
It's based on years of coaching and real relationship work, including our own. And it's designed to give you insight, not judgment.
You can take it free at lipcouples.com/compass. It only takes about 5 minutes, and it might completely change how you see yourself and your partner.
Because the truth is, you don't need a new partner. You just need a new compass.
And a little practice.
Oh, yeah. As always, that's what love and practice is all about.